Good morning, First Church. Good morning. That's a good morning. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving? Anybody in here overeat? Anyone? By raise of hands, did you overeat? If you did not raise your hand, you are a liar. And Jesus is listening. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, so today we're going to do things a little differently. I know, shocking. Dustin's up here. We're going to do things differently. But not I personally, but we as a church have got you guys a gift. We brought gifts today. Can I get an amen for that? Gifts. Now, some of you may not like it, but it's a great gift. We are going to have some of our youth staff and youth and people from the church going to come out, and they're going to bring out donuts for everybody in the church right now. So everybody in here gets a donut. If you don't take the donut, you're going to hurt my feelings. Take the donut, because we have a lot of donuts. So take a donut. They're going to come around right now and hand them out. Make sure you grab a donut. Grab two. Make a sandwich if you got to. But while you guys are getting your donuts, I have a question for you. Can you guys bring up that slide? Who in here likes leftovers? Anybody? Raise your hand if you like leftovers. And I don't mean just turkey dinner leftovers. Everybody likes turkey dinner leftovers. Who likes like the 3-day-old spaghetti and the little fuzzy stuff? Don't eat the fuzzy ones. If there's fuzz growing on leftovers, let them be. Time to throw them out, container and all. So this is a refrigerator of leftovers, obviously. Anybody in here, refrigerator, look a little bit like that this morning? Yeah, be honest. I said you're in church. Jesus is listening. Whose refrigerator looks like this morning? Nobody's. I'm impressed. Y'all are super neat people. So let me tell you a little story about leftovers in the Ichida house when I was a child. So I am from Northeast Ohio, Cleveland. We used to be called the Mistake by the Lake. We're no longer the Mistake by the Lake. We have a world champion now. So, it's like sports teams. If they win, you're suddenly not a mistake. It's funny like that. But so I am from Northeast Ohio, Cleveland, and there is something different about us Northeast Ohio people, Cleveland people. So when I was little and we'd have our turkey dinner, we would eat around 2 o'clock, and my mom, she did it right, man. I mean, she made everything from the sweet potatoes to the stuffing to the green beans, vegetables, turkey, gravy, even the canned cranberry sauce. When you got to open both ends of the can, push it out, and it still leaves the rings in it. And my dad would cut it in half and then cut it in slices and put it on this really pretty plate. And I'd be like, this stuff is so bad. But I'd eat it because it's Thanksgiving. You eat what you have. So we would do that, and we'd eat around 2 o'clock. And around 8 o'clock, can anybody tell me what time 8 o'clock is? It's leftover time. So my mom, being the Northeast Ohio mom that she was, would bring out the loaf of Wonder Bread. White, gooey, nasty Wonder Bread. And a jar of Miracle Whip, and the sliced turkey. And we would make turkey sandwiches. And that was all it was. I mean, you take a bite of it, and that white bread, I mean, it's like immediately. You guys see you're laughing because you've done it. Because it just, and you're like you're actually like scraping stuff off the top of your mouth. But that's what I remember. I remember making these amazing sandwiches. But they were still leftovers. They weren't the hot, amazing plate of food that we had. The turkey dried out a little bit by 8 o'clock. It was sticky white bread, so it wasn't really the same meal. My question today is, does anyone in the room feel like they give God their leftovers at times? Do you ever feel like, I just don't have enough to give you today? I just don't have it in me. I got to just give you this, whatever I've got. And trust me, God will do wonders with even your leftovers. But are there too many times in your life where you're just saying, I can't do it anymore? It's great that we sang the songs that we sang today already. Because here's the thing. There's been many times in my life where I have felt like I didn't have any more to give God because the devil was telling me that I wasn't enough. The devil was telling me, be ashamed of who you are because you are not enough. You can't give him enough. It is not possible for you to give enough to God. Has that ever happened to you? Where the devil says, you can't give to God. You can't give enough to make him happy. And I end up giving him my leftovers. I end up giving him whatever I've got, just the little scraps from the table. I don't want to give leftovers anymore. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read to you guys, and there's going to be no screens. There's going to be no words. It's just going to, I want you guys to hear these words. I'm going to read a couple of stories from the Bible that I think you're going to hear some really cool things about God. First one is one from Genesis 1. And these are just excerpts from Genesis 1, but I think you'll get the gist of where I'm going. God saw that the light was good. God called the dry ground land and the gathered waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. God sent them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems and that moves about in it according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, and listen to this. This is the big one. Let us make mankind in our image. Did you hear that? Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. That's from Genesis 1. John 3:16 through 17, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Now, I don't know about you, but those two things, those two moments, those aren't leftovers. Those aren't God saying, I'm just going to give them what little bit I've got to give. It was God saying, I'm going to give them everything I've got. Everything in me, I'm going to give them. I'm going to create them in my image, and I'm going to give them my Son to die on a cross for them. Jesus' death and resurrection are the two things that I believe are the greatest stories of God's greatest blessings in our lives. And his death and his crucifixion was one of the worst things a person could go through. So I'm going to read you something. This is going to take a couple of minutes, and I hope you guys will hang with me, because I want you guys to feel what Jesus felt on that day. I probably won't get through it. I'll probably blubber like a baby, because that's who I am. But I think you'll understand what I'm talking about once you hear it. So here we go. His crucifixion. It is the most painful death ever invented by man, and is where we get our term excruciating from. It was reserved primarily for the most vicious of male criminals. The crucifixion of Jesus guaranteed a horrific, slow, painful death. Having been nailed to the cross, Jesus now had an impossible anatomical position to maintain. Jesus' knees were flexed at about 45 degrees, and he was forced to bear his weight with the muscles of his thigh, which is not an anatomical position which is possible to maintain for more than a few minutes without severe cramp in the muscles of the thigh and calf. Jesus' weight was borne on his feet, with nails driven through them. As the strength of the muscles of Jesus' lower limbs tired, the weight of his body had to be transferred to his wrists, his arms, and his shoulders. Within a few minutes of being placed on the cross, Jesus' shoulders were dislocated. Minutes later, Jesus' elbows and wrists became dislocated. In order to breathe out, Jesus had to push down on the nails in his feet to raise his body and allow his rib cage to move downwards and inwards to expire air from his lungs. His lungs were in a resting position of constant maximum inspiration. Crucifixion is a medical catastrophe. The problem was that Jesus could not easily push down on the nails in his feet because the muscles of his legs, bent at 45 degrees, were extremely fatigued, in severe cramp, and in an anatomically compromised position. The process of respiration caused excruciating pain, mixed with the absolute terror of asphyxiation. As the 6 hours of crucifixion wore on, Jesus was less and less able to bear his weight on his legs, as his thigh and calf muscles became increasingly exhausted. There was increasing dislocation of his wrists, elbows, and shoulders, and further elevation of his chest wall, making his breathing more and more difficult. Within minutes of crucifixion, Jesus became severely short of breath. The movements became less frequent as Jesus became increasingly exhausted. But the terror of imminent death by asphyxiation forced him to continue in his efforts to breathe. The blood was a result of the scourging that nearly killed him, and the sweat as a result of his violent and voluntary attempts to effort to expire air from his lungs. Throughout all of this, he was completely naked, and the leaders of the Jews, the crowds, and the thieves on both sides of him were jeering, swearing, and laughing at him. In addition, Jesus' own mother was watching. Jesus' heart beat faster and faster, and his pulse rate was probably about 220 beats per minute, the maximum normal sustainable. Jesus was in heart failure and respiratory failure. Jesus could not breathe properly and was slowly suffocating to death. Because of the increasing physiological demands on Jesus' heart, Jesus probably eventually sustained cardiac rupture. His heart literally burst. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Jesus said, "It is finished." At that moment, he gave up his spirit and he died. When the soldiers came to Jesus to break his legs, he was already dead. Not a bone of his body was broken. Jesus died after 6 hours of the most excruciating and terrifying torture ever invented. That's God's best. That's Jesus saying, I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to go through hell and back because I love you. I'm going to go through the most excruciating pain, the most awful thing, because you are my children. Those aren't leftovers. But here's the cool thing. And here's the part where we get to cheer. He didn't stay dead. Jesus didn't stay dead. God said, you know what? Not today. Not today. Not in my house, right? I'm going to protect my house. And Jesus was resurrected from the dead so that you and you and you and all of us can live. Jesus is best or his leftovers? I say his best. These, to me, are just some of the biggies in the Bible. These are the main stories, right? These are the things that we get to stand on. These are the things that we get to say, this is why my faith is what it is. But there are other people that did amazing things and gave God their best. Let me read a couple of those. From Mark 12. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. In Matthew 4:18 through 22, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Did you hear that? At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. So I don't know about you, but is that God? Are they giving his best or leftovers? I say best. This poor woman gives everything she had because she realized what the relationship with Jesus really meant. These disciples said, I don't care. I will drop everything I have. I will do whatever it is you want and follow Jesus. How about Joseph? We're about to walk into this Christmas season. And I've always thought of Joseph as being the unsung hero of the Bible. Because it would have been super easy for Joseph to just say, you know what? I'm going to quietly divorce this woman. But what did he do? He said, oh no, I'm going to raise this boy. This boy is my own. And that boy was Jesus. God, is that his best? Or was that Joseph's leftovers? I say it was his best. Why is it so easy for us to give God our leftovers? Why is it so easy for us to believe the lies in our lives and say, you know what? I just don't have anything to give. Throughout my life, it's always been, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I can't do this. I can't do that. It wasn't until I followed Jesus where Jesus started saying, oh, you're enough. Oh, you're plenty enough. But who do you trust? It's that big T word, right? We talk about it in youth all the time. What's the big T word? Trust. Do you trust me? Because if you trust me, then leftovers aren't even in the picture. If you trust me, then your leftovers, those don't even matter. Your firsts are that's what's in front. Let me tell you a little story about where my life has gone. So we started going to church. We had kids. I didn't really want to be at church. Saturday nights we stayed up late. It was, it's a late night. Do we really got to go to church? All right, we'll go to church. So here's how my morning went. We would stop at Tim Hortons. Does anyone know what Tim Hortons is in here? Tim Hortons is like a donut coffee shop. And we would go and donuts, get it? So I would get the largest coffee they had, big coffee. And I would walk into the church and I would grab my bulletin and we'd sit way in the back of the church. And I would sit down and I would know, okay, I'm going to get through the music because that's easy. I like music. I'll listen to the music. And as soon as the music is over, I can start sipping my coffee. Because I knew if I started sipping my coffee after the music, I would get through the service till the music starts again at the end before I ran out of my coffee. So I knew exactly how long to drink my coffee. And then when pastor would come up and start preaching, I knew I could start reading the bulletin. Because then I'd get halfway through the service reading the bulletin. Because I certainly wasn't paying attention to any sermon. So I would literally read the bulletin for half. And then I said, then I'll just have to sit and be patient for the next 10 minutes and I'll get to sing again. So, my bests or my leftovers? Pretty sure I was giving God my leftovers. I'm not even sure I was giving God my leftovers. I think I was, I probably it probably would have been better me not even showing up. I'm sure something got stuck in my brain at some point. But I do believe that I gave him my leftovers. Anybody in here ever have moments like that? You ever come into church going, I'm not really feeling it? Youth, you ever come into youth go, I don't really need to listen to this. I really just want to hang out with my friends. I'm the same way. So that's what I want you to hear first and foremost, that I feel the same way. These are not feelings that I'm telling you, you should be ashamed of feeling this way. These are the feelings that I feel. I just try to fight them more day in, day out. I try to trust a little bit more day in and day out. So what are these things that we have on this table here? Anybody? Say it again. Leftover containers. These are like the favorite thing in our house because we do eat leftovers a lot. We take them for lunch. I don't always eat them. I take them for lunch. I take them for lunch. I don't always eat them for lunch, but I take them. I have good intentions. Good intentions. But that's what we do. So we love these containers. How often does our lives with Jesus look a lot like these containers? How often do we open this one up and we say, you know what? This is going to be my prayer life this week. And this is all Jesus is going to get. He's going to get what's in here. And you close it and you say, I can't give anymore. And maybe this one we open up and we say, you know what, this week, this is what the family, this is my family is going to get. And Jesus, I can only let you in this much of the family this week. And you close it up, you put it on the fridge, in the fridge. And maybe this one's my marriage this week. I'm going to give this much to Jesus this week. And I'm going to close it up. And maybe this one's my kids, and this one's my job. But here's the problem. How often do these things get the fuzz on them? How often is it that we don't even open them? How often is it that we take them for lunch and then we just leave them in the refrigerator? This life that Jesus has given us can be so amazing. it can be so amazing because Jesus wants it to be amazing. But too often we allow the outside forces in our lives to create this wall that we put in front of us and we say, Jesus, not today. You get my leftovers, but I can't give you it all. I need it. Are we putting our leftovers in leftover containers? And keeping them from God and keeping everything else from God? Let me ask you a few questions. When you pray, are you giving God your best or are you giving him your leftovers? Is your prayer life truly the life that you want with Jesus? Because I know we have friends that we spend eons of time with. Are we spending time with Jesus? Or are we saying, you know what, Jesus, you can have the 5 minutes in the morning that I sometimes remember to do it. You want to know why I say the 5 minutes in the morning? Because that's where I am sometimes. God, I don't have time to do my devotions today. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. That's what I got. Really? How about when you serve? Are you serving because you love Jesus, or are you serving because you feel obligated? Because if you're serving out of obligation, you're serving out of your leftovers. If you're serving because you love Jesus and that is truly the relationship that you want, then you're serving out of your best. I want to serve from my best. How about you guys? How about in your friendships? The ones that push you to be better. Are you allowing them to love you and push you in ways that you just can't do on your own? Or are you giving them your leftovers and saying, hey, this is where I need you right now. I need you to be this. Don't get into this. Just stay where I need you. How about when we give to God? Well, I remember today, here's $10. Or are we saying, it's not mine anyways? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have it anyways. And last, this is the most difficult for me because I struggle with family issues. I struggle with a broken relationship with my brother. Are you forgiving? Are you telling people, I love you and I'm sorry and I forgive you for whatever it is? Because let me tell you, Jesus died that way. Those words were not just made up things. That is what Jesus went through to forgive all of us. Look deep inside of yourself and know this, that you are forgiven. But here's the truth of everything. There is greatness in every single one of you. Greatness, not just good, not just average, not leftovers. There's greatness in every single one of you. But we got to trust Jesus. Today, we got to trust Jesus and unleash the greatness that's inside of us. Because when we unleash the greatness that's inside of us and that Jesus wants to use in us, this world will be different. And maybe there won't be shootings in schools anymore. And maybe there won't be children dying in the streets from hunger. And maybe there won't be homelessness. And maybe there won't be a lot of things that there are because we are too scared to get off the sidelines and do something. We're too comfortable giving our leftovers. We're going to sing a couple of songs here. And I want you to give your bests in worship today. I want you to let Jesus know that you're ready to unleash your greatness. and you're ready to trust him a little bit more. Amen.